Welcome back to Bookish Guys. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, good to be diving in again.
If you're new here, just know we've done a couple of these deep dives before into some really interesting books.
That's right.
And today we're getting into Michael Lopp's The Art of Leadership, Small Things Done Well.
Ah, yes, the O'Reilly book with the B on the cover.
That's the one. Published May 2020, first edition. And good to know there's actually revision history and errata online if you're into the details.
Always helpful.
Yeah.
But the core idea, right from the start, it's not about those, quick fixes or leadership hacks.
No, not at all.
Lopp's whole point is about repeatable practices. Small things done consistently.
Small things done well, as the title says.
Exactly. That build sustainable leadership over time. It's about consistency, not these big, flashy gestures.
Yeah, he really seems to believe leadership is an art you learn, like, on the job.
Right. Not necessarily something you just get from a university degree. It's refined through experience.
Makes sense. And the dedication, I thought that was quite striking.
Mm-hmm.
To Rochelle, neither I nor you, but us.
Mm. It sets a nice collaborative tone, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so let's get into it. The foreword first.
Sure. It's written by someone who scaled Instagram's engineering team, so they saw rapid growth firsthand.
Wow. Okay, so a practical perspective.
Very practical. They talk about how much they relied on Lopp's writings during that intense time.
And they mention leadership habits.
Yeah, that's a key concept. These small, intentional acts you just repeat.
Until they stick.
Until they become second nature. Yeah, almost automatic.
Okay, then the introduction. Lopp explains how to read the book, right? It's not strictly linear.
Exactly. He says you can read it straight through, cover to cover.
Sure.
Or just dip in randomly. Chapters are pretty much standalone.
Which is handy.
Yeah, and he includes this list of small things at the beginning. It's like a detailed index for specific problems.
So you can jump right to, say, improving staff meetings.
Right, like his example of adding a recurring topic for gossip.
That one definitely jumped out at me, too. Gossip. In a staff meeting.
Well, yeah. It sounds a bit counterintuitive, maybe.
A little.
But the idea, which he explores later, is creating a space to tackle rumors and misinformation head on.
Okay, so it's proactive. Getting ahead of problems.
Exactly, before they blow up. But it all comes back to that main theme, right?
The small things.
These seemingly minor actions and how they add up. Their cumulative effect on leadership.
Okay, let's dive into part I then. This covers his time at Netscape as a manager.
Right. And the first small thing is foundational. Assume they have something to teach you.
I like that. It's about humility.
Humility, continuous learning, yeah.
Yeah.
Recognizing everyone on the team, no matter their role, brings something valuable.
So listen actively. Be open.
Precisely. Then he talks about meeting blur.
Oh, I know that feeling. After back-to-back meetings.
Totally. It's that sense of just being swamped by information.
Too much coming in.
Yeah, the volume of data just exceeds your ability to, synthesize it, to make a coherent story out of it.
Right. It's all just blurry.
Exactly. And building on that, he discusses the situation, capital S.
Okay, so not just any old problem.
No, he differentiates these capital S situations from regular capital D decisions.
Yeah. So what is a situation?
It's those really complex, novel problems, stuff you haven't seen before, the kind that leaves everyone feeling a bit lost.
Okay. And he has a process for handling them.
A pretty structured one, yeah. Almost like a workflow in your head.
Like a checklist. What kind of questions does he suggest asking?
Well, first, am I the right person for this? Is it actually your problem to solve?
Good point. Don't just jump in.
Right. Then, gather all the context, facts, opinions. He even mentions potential lies.
Wow, okay, so get the full, messy picture.
And try to understand multiple perspectives without your own emotion or bias getting in the way.
That sounds hard.
It is. You need to understand your own biases, too, your emotional state.
And after all that...
Then you ask again, okay, am I still the right person?
That's really thorough. Thinking before acting.
Which leads nicely into the next one. Act last, read the room, and taste the soup.
Okay, break that down. Act last.
It means in meetings, resist jumping in first. Listen. Gather context from others. Then offer your opinion.
So you have a better informed take.
Exactly. Read the room is about emotional intelligence.
Tuning into the mood.
Yeah. Understanding the vibe of the group, whether it's a big presentation, a 1.1, whatever, it helps you tailor your approach.
Like asking, how are you? In a 1.1 and actually listening.
Yes. Or just watching body language in a group meeting.
And taste the soup. Metaphorically, I assume.
Chuckles.
Yep.
Yeah, metaphorically. It's another way to assess the situation, get a feel for the underlying dynamics, the unspoken stuff.
Reading the room feels so basic, but so easy to forget when you're focused on your own points.
Absolutely. Okay, next is spidey sense.
Love that term. Intuition.
Sort of, but he grounds it. It's real-time wisdom from pattern matching your experiences.
Ah, so you start to recognize patterns, like when something feels off.
Exactly, even if you can't immediately say why. He tells a story about a spidey sense spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet. For gut feelings, seriously.
Kind of, yeah. They used it at an old company to track those feelings about employees when something just felt wrong.
As an early warning? For potential attrition, maybe?
Precisely. Not to jump to conclusions, but as a signal to pay attention, to investigate.
So trust the feeling, but verify.
Right. Listen to it, act on it, even if the why isn't clear yet.
Fascinating. Okay, Chapter 6. Your professional growth questionnaire. Sounds useful.
Oh, it really is. A tool for self-reflection. A bunch of questions about your career, your satisfaction.
And you should do it regularly.
He suggests multiple times a year, and crucially, write your answers down.
Why write them down?
To track changes. See how your perspective shifts over time. It makes you actively manage your career story.
Instead of just letting it happen, what kinds of questions are in there?
All sorts. Strengths, weaknesses. When was your last raise or promotion?
Do you feel fairly paid?
Yep. When did you last get useful feedback? Who's your mentor? Have you had a 360 review?
Even future stuff.
Yeah, like what's your dream job? What companies do you admire? Just engaging with these questions regularly can spark insights.
Definitely seems like a proactive way to steer your career. Okay, Chapter 7 is giving useful feedback. Always a tricky one.
Super tricky. Lopp stresses it needs to be clear and actionable.
Meaning?
The person receiving it has to, 1, actually agree with the assessment, understand it,
Okay.
and 2, you need to agree together on a specific, measurable action to address the gap.
So it's collaborative, not just criticism.
Right. He contrasts that coaching style with the Grim Reaper approach, just pointing out flaws. That's pure performance management, not helpful feedback.
And if talking isn't working?
He suggests writing it down. Sometimes seeing it in writing provides clarity.
Good tip. It's about guiding change, not just finding fault. Chapter 8 is more practical. Invest in saving yourself time. Browser, phone, email.
Yeah, this is about optimizing your digital tools for efficiency. Like for your browser, he suggests deleting all your bookmarks.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and rebuilding them intentionally. Pinning key tools, using a feed reader.
Okay. What about the phone?
Manage notifications ruthlessly. Identify VIPs. Use spam blockers. Maybe delete apps you don't use.
An email. The inbox monster.
A strict scrubbing protocol. Process it fast. Unsubscribe aggressively. Mark spam.
The goal being?
Minimizing digital noise. Creating more focused time for actual leadership work. Less distraction, more strategic thinking.
Makes sense. Need to try some of those. Chapter 9 sounds ominous. The new manager death spiral.
It does, and it describes a common pattern for new managers.
What kind of mistakes?
Often trying to do everything themselves, holding on to the work that got them promoted.
Resisting delegation.
Big time. Thinking they can do it better or faster, failing to build trust.
And the result?
Burnout for the manager, they become a bottleneck. Projects suffer, the team gets demoralized.
And negative perceptions spread.
Exactly. It's a spiral. The instincts that got you promoted can actually sink you as a manager if you don't adapt.
A powerful warning. Okay, Act 2 takes us to Apple, Steve Jobs' return era. Chapter 10 is the blue tape list. Blue tape.
It's a metaphor, like putting blue painter's tape on things in an organization that feel broken or need attention.
Okay, so identifying problems.
Yes, but with a twist. He says be patient. What seems like a huge fire on day 1
Might look different later.
Exactly. As you gain context, that urgent issue might become irrelevant or less critical. So observe before reacting.
Don't waste energy on the wrong things. Good advice. Chapter 11. Delegate until it hurts.
This is core leadership scaling, right? You have to delegate.
Even when it feels like a stretch. Or you think you could do it better.
Especially then. It's crucial for your team's growth and your own capacity. He gives this example.
Yeah.
A project might only get a B grade technically, but if the team did it, learned, built trust, that's an A for leadership.
Because it increases the chance of future A projects from them.
Precisely. And he talks about silencing that little voice. Shush, little voice.
The one saying, I should just do it myself.
Exactly. Resist the urge to micromanage.
Investing in the team pays off. Okay, Chapter 12. How to recruit. He thinks this is a major part of the job.
Huge. He argues it should be like 50% of a leader's time.
50%, wow.
Yeah. He breaks it into 3 stages. Discover, understand, delight.
Discover is finding people.
Finding qualified candidates, especially those not actively looking. He mentions keeping a must list.
People you definitely hire again.
Exactly. People you want to work with. Understand is the evaluation part.
And delight.
Making and negotiating the offer. But he says if you do the first 2 stages well, the offer should almost be a formality.
Because they already want to join.
Right. But the leader needs to be involved all the way through.
But that 50% really drives home the priority. Chapter 13, back to meetings. Gossip, rumors, and lies. Staff meetings.
He sees staff meetings, when done right, as second only to 1.1s in importance.
For team building. Information sharing.
Team building, info dissemination, healthy debate, yeah. But he warns, meetings without agendas are dangerous.
Been there. He suggests a meeting runner.
Yeah, someone to keep things on track. And his ideal agenda has 3 parts.
Okay, what are they?
1, the minimal metric story, review key numbers. 2, rolling team source topics, let the team add items.
And 3, the gossip part.
Gossip, rumors, and lies. A dedicated time to surface and address that stuff openly.
Creates a safe space, tackles misinformation.
Right. And always share meeting notes for transparency and to force reflection on whether the meeting was actually useful.
Makes sense. Chapter 14 is rainbows and unicorns, the compliment. Focusing on the positive.
Yeah, but defining what makes a useful compliment.
Which is?
Selfless, well-articulated, timely, sincere, and specific.
Not just generic praise.
Exactly. He contrasts it with the Peggle compliment. You know, praise that feels kind of random or more about making the giver feel good.
Okay. And he says you need to balance compliments with.
Saying the hard thing. Being able to give constructive criticism, too.
Right. Which leads straight into chapter 15. Say the hard thing. Hearing the hard thing.
Acknowledging this is tough for leaders, often because of empathy. You don't want to cause discomfort.
He categorizes feedback.
Into 3 types. No big deal, slow burn, stuff that builds up, and just plain hard, major issues.
And for receiving hard feedback.
A 2-step process. First, just listen. Try to find a grain of truth. Resist getting defensive.
Okay, listen first.
Then,
repeat back what you heard for clarification and to show you were listening.
So, feedback is a transaction, builds trust.
Absolutely. It's a valuable social exchange when done well.
Good framework. Chapter 16. Failure as a competitive differentiator. Embracing mistakes.
More like learning from them effectively. Failures are inevitable, especially as you scale.
So the response is key.
Totally. Learn with ruthless and calming efficiency. Find the root cause.
To avoid repeating it, don't play dumb games twice, he says.
Exactly. It's about building a learning culture, not a blame culture. Crucial for innovation. Chapter 17 seems basic. The org chart test. Why is that important?
It might seem basic, but as teams grow, a clear org chart is vital to manage the tax on communication.
The complexity that comes with size.
Right, things get confusing. So he proposes the legibility test.
Which is?
If a random tenured person looked at it, would they say, yep, that looks about right? Does it make sense intuitively?
And he advises not putting names on the first view.
Yeah, on the high-level organizational view. Keep it about structure first, otherwise it can get political.
Focus on roles and reporting lines. Makes sense.
I guess.
Chapter 18, very relevant now. A distributed meeting primer.
Super relevant. Practical tips for remote meetings.
Like what? Pre-meeting.
Invest in good hardware. Schedule meetings maybe 5 minutes after the hour or half hour.
To give people buffer time between calls. Smart.
Yeah, and during the meeting, be mindful of the lag.
The lag omnipresent. It really affects conversation flow.
It does.
Yeah.
And while he doesn't detail post-meeting here, the earlier advice on agendas, notes, action items still applies.
Good practical stuff. Okay, Act 3 moves to Slack, executive level. Chapter 19, allergic to wisdom. Provocative title.
It is. It's about that initial phase when a new exec joins the first impression zone.
What's the dynamic there?
The team often has faith in the new leader's plan, but the leader is still learning, figuring things out, and might make mistakes.
A tension there.
Yeah. And it explores when to innovate versus iterate. Sometimes, he argues, you should just act without asking.
Really? Like when?
To save time, keep momentum. His example is just implementing a basic career path framework instead of endless debate. Prioritize progress over perfection initially.
Bold. Chapter 20, the guard. Who are the guards?
It's about the dynamic between the old guard, longtime employees with deep context, and the new guard, newer folks.
Ah, the experience versus the fresh perspectives.
Right. He describes a disaster meeting where a problem pops up that neither group saw coming, a communication breakdown,
Versus a functional team.
versus productive teams that trust each other and handle issues. He also warns about learned helplessness.
In the new guard.
Yeah, if their ideas or challenges are constantly shot down by the old guard, they might just stop trying.
A common challenge, bridging that gap. Chapter 21, The Culture Creek. Cultures isn't just the posters on the wall.
Definitely not.
Right.
Lopp says true culture is in the stories people tell each other.
The anecdotes.
Exactly. Leaders need to listen for those stories to understand what's really valued, how things actually work.
He gives an example, right? AJ and Carol.
Yeah, an anecdote that reveals deeper norms about collaboration, problem solving, maybe even how much embellishment is okay in storytelling. The story itself becomes part of the culture.
So listen to the grapevine. Chapter 22, Protect Your Unstructured Time, or Anti-Flow.
Yeah, anti-flow, those moments when your brain isn't focused, just wandering. Shower thoughts, basically.
That's valuable.
Hugely valuable for making random connections, sparking creativity. He suggests actively creating fertile anti-flow.
Ow.
Unscheduled time, like weekend mornings, or long bike rides. Activities where your mind can roam without a specific task.
Giving your brain space to make those leaps makes sense. Chapter 23, Career Paths. Need clarity here.
Absolutely. Clear, visible paths for both individual contributors, ICs, and managers, and written by people in those roles.
Not just HR.
Right. He argues if only management promotions are visible, it signals only managers have power.
So define IC leadership too.
Yes, leadership comes from everywhere. Define IC leadership competencies. Maybe create roles like tech lead or even a hybrid tech lead manager with a few reports.
So the promotion process itself shows how leadership is valued.
Exactly. All kinds of leadership.
Good point. Chapter 24, How to Build a Rumor. Dissecting misinformation.
Pretty much. He notes rumors are insidious because they often have a grain of truth.
Makes them believable.
Right. He even references the Ash conformity experiment, people conforming to a wrong answer if the group does. Shows how easily belief can be swayed.
So rumors have more credibility than just outright lies.
Often, yeah. And he says rumors are a function of culture. They thrive when it's easier to talk about someone than to them.
Oof. That hits home. Chapter 25, Kobayashi Maru Management. Back to Star Trek.
Chuckles. Yeah, the no-win scenario test. Lopp's point isn't about winning the no-win, it's about avoiding it.
Through preparation.
Exactly, meticulous preparation. He outlines a whole Kobayashi prevention protocol for big changes.
Like what?
Write a framing document, have pre-flight meetings with individuals, walkthroughs with small groups, then present to the teams. Be thorough.
Proactive prevention.
Yeah.
Smart. Chapter 26, The Signal Network. Information flow.
Yep, how information moves through the organization. He uses a 4-quadrant graph
To map information.
based on freshness and criticality, highlighting the danger zone. Important, slow information, critical stuff that gets delayed.
And the goal is to fix that.
Ensure critical info gets to the right people quickly. 1.1s are key here. And recognizing your high-signal humans.
People who are reliable sources of good information.
Exactly. Timely, relevant, accurate.
Keeping communication flowing well is vital. Chapter 27 warns, the state of busy is seductive.
Oh yeah. The trap of feeling productive just because you're busy. The faux zone, he calls it.
It feels important to be overloaded.
It can be addictive, yeah. He argues for blocking off a precious hour each day.
For what?
Real, focused work, creation, deep thinking, the zone. No to-do lists, no distractions.
Prioritizing deep work over constant busyness. Crucial. Chapter 28, Find a Mentor.
He shares his own story about finding a mentor, Marty, who was crucial for him.
Mentorship is key. He talks about 360 reviews.
Yeah, getting that feedback from peers, reports, managers, highlighting how people are often bad at direct, face-to-face constructive feedback.
But anonymous feedback can be more honest.
Sometimes, yeah. Reinforces that feedback is a gift. You need to unwrap it, reflect on it, act on it.
Wise words. Chapter 29, How to Rands. Sounds like a user manual for him.
It kind of is. His operating principles, his North Star principles, emphasis on reliability.
His protocols for feedback and meetings.
Yep. And again, reinforcing that leadership comes from everywhere, not just managers. Setting expectations.
Clarity is good. And finally, Chapter 30, Be Unfailingly Kind.
A powerful closer. The importance of kindness in leadership. He uses an analogy from playing Destiny, the video game,
Okay.
and he distinguishes between dealing with difficult or colorful personalities versus actual jerks.
There's a difference.
A big difference. But the core message is the positive impact of consistent kindness and empathy on the team, the environment.
A really vital human element. So the epilogue, the way I heard it, was kind of wraps it all up.
Yeah, reflects on strategy, tactics, and just reinforces the main theme. Leadership is about those small steps, consistently taken.
But grand gestures.
Right, continuous learning, small improvements. It also mentions the interlude, the test, defining your vision, strategy, tactics.
Ties it all together nicely. Wow, that was quite the journey through the art of leadership.
It really covers a lot of ground, from mindset shifts like assuming others have something to teach you, all the way to fundamental principles like kindness.
And it's amazing how those small things really do connect. Delegation, feedback, meetings, handling rumors.
Exactly. They weave together into this holistic approach. It's not one magic bullet. It's a commitment to ongoing, thoughtful practice.
Mm-hmm. So for you listening, we really encourage you to think about these small things. Which ones resonated? Which might apply to your situation right now?
Yeah, you might be surprised. Even tiny adjustments to daily habits, to how you interact, that it can really add up over time, a significant impact on your leadership.
Definitely. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Lopp's work, we hope you'll follow Bookish Dives.
We'll be back with more explorations of insightful books. Thanks for joining us.